Hi, everybody. Welcome back to CN Live here on NRA TV. Coley and Noir is out for the week. I'm Bill Whittle from BillWhittle.com out here in Los Angeles. And in our second part of the hour, we're going to be looking again at the remarkable speech that Donald Trump gave last night. Coming up in just a few moments, our friend Beth Baumann from BearingArms.com is going to be here, and we'll talk to her for the rest of the show. But before we do, I'd like to take a look at some of the reactions to Donald Trump's speech last night from the mainstream news media, of all people. As I said just before the break, it's a good day to be an American. Here's the Wall Street Journal. They say Trump's speech marks a shift. Trump's speech to Congress marks a shift in tone. That's to say the least. Donald Trump had a tremendous reception there and came out in a much different way than he had before, much less combative, much more optimistic, much more presidential, and so on. Our friends over at the Washington Post, who are usually we can count on to make an interesting story. There we are. Trump seeks to build momentum from speech that invigorated the GOP. Yeah, I think a lot of the elements of his speech last night we saw at CPAC a couple weeks ago. And the Washington Post has a little subtitle there that says "Democracy dies in darkness." That's actually probably their mission statement, but who am I to say? Let's take a look at the big fish here. The New York Times is next, I think, is it? Hey, look at that. Trump in optimistic address asked Congress to end trivial fights. It's hard for people like this at the New York Times and the Washington Post to admit that Donald Trump gained some ground, let alone that he gained a lot of ground. They've been trying to delegitimize him as much as possible, and it's just not working, apparently. Again, the American people just aren't buying it. But of all of the ones that I saw, before we go to that, just have to set this up for a second. You may or may not know the name Van Jones. Van Jones was going to be an advisor, I think, for the EPA for President Obama, and then it came out that he was an actual Maoist communist, and apparently that wasn't as fashionable back in the beginning as it is today. So Van Jones, you could probably say, is one of the most outspoken, violently partisan left-wingers in the public arena in the United States of America. I would put Van Jones as far, he's to the left of Lenin, I'm quite sure. Here's what Van Jones had to say about President Trump's speech last night. Van Jones on Trump, quote, "He became president of the United States in that moment, period." Wow. Wow. From Van Jones, that's really saying something. And you know what that is, folks? That, in a real sense, is an admission of defeat on the part of the left, because they've been trying to delegitimize Donald Trump and trying to say he's not really the president, and the Russians and the popular vote, all this nonsense. For somebody as far left, a left-wing activist like Van Jones, to say that President Trump became president last night, just in the magnitude of his speech, well, that's a landmark. It absolutely certainly is. So let's have some more fun talking about this. Our friend Beth Baumann from BearingArms.com is here with us today. Beth, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's so great to be here with you.
Great to have you with us. Well, Beth, let's not pull any punches. What did you think? Are you over the moon, or are you guardedly optimistic? What did you think?
You know what? I was pleasantly surprised by President Trump's speech. He delivered a very presidential address. And like you said, the fact that Van Jones is praising him speaks wonders. In fact, Van Jones actually came to my college while I was there, and nobody understood why us conservatives had our arms wailing, But no, he was very presidential, and I feel like for the first time, a lot of Americans, even the people who kind of shuddered at him being our president, could look to him and look to that speech and say, wow, now Trump is coming into his own. Now he's coming into being the president. I think that's what a lot of conservatives, especially the never Trumpers, were looking for the longest
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely.
For him to turn down the rhetoric and really kind of humble himself and humble himself to what the presidency stands for, and realize that he's no longer just representing Donald J. Trump. He's representing America.
Yes, I don't think there's any question about it. I've talked to many friends of mine in the business. I got this sensation very strong at CPAC, that this horrific divide between the Trump and never Trump people that really hurt us very badly last year is essentially, if not healed, it's healing very, very quickly. Trump's appointments have been stellar. I just cannot imagine a better cabinet than the cabinet he's produced. Let me ask you something, Beth. Everybody's a little different. Everybody brings their own, background and interests and so on to something like a speech like that. My favorite moment was this really sounds kind of trivial, but I'm a pilot. And Donald Trump said this again. He said, we're going to start building things again. We're going to build airports. And I just took my breath away. I said, we don't build airports in America. We close airports in America. That's what we do. He's talking about building airports. These are enormous issues of growth that have been stifled for 50, 60 years. And this business about footprints on another planet, I got practically teary-eyed thinking about how wonderful all of that stuff was. What was it about his speech that really lit up you?
For me, immigration. I'm originally from Southern California, and back in 2014, I actually stood out in 100+ degree heat in Marietta for about a month when all of the bus controversy was happening and they were dumping illegal aliens in my community. So hearing him say, we are going to protect our southern borders, we're going to do everything in our power to really fight for American jobs, that hit home for me. And I know immigration has been a very big platform of his for his entire campaign. But for the first time, I truly felt like we're actually going to start seeing some results. We're going to start focusing on those things. And for the first time, I really felt like he could relate to someone like me who grew up in an area that was vastly impacted by illegal immigration. I've seen the firsthand impacts of it: low wages, no jobs, a high crime and poverty rate, things that the rest of the country doesn't see, that flyover states don't see, so to speak. English as a second language classes are some of the most common things. Where I'm from, 99% of the school is on free or reduced lunch, mostly free. And this cultural difference, and hearing how he wants to completely address that, I feel like there's finally, at least in my lifetime, a president who values that as much as I do.
I live in Southern California as well. I don't know how true this is across the middle of the country, but here in Southern California, when you talk to a business, you get an automated response, and it's virtually always press 1 for English, press 2 for Spanish. I don't want to press 1 for English. This is a country that speaks English. Why can't I press 3 for Chinese and 4 for Korean? Here's a president that's out there defending our values. And let's talk about the immigration thing for a minute, Beth, since it was such a big part of your life. What Donald Trump came out and did again was he in no uncertain terms reaffirmed the statement that we are going to build a wall on our southern border. But just as a person who's interested in messaging, I was very impressed at how, I don't want to say he softened it, but he nuanced it a little bit. He would say things like the number of illegal aliens in our country are hurting America's poor people. It wasn't just like, hey, I hate you, you've got to stay out. He was raising this issue to a level that I'd never seen before. If we have illegal immigrants in this country, then hardworking Americans are suffering, especially at the bottom of the economic ladder. Did you get that sense that there was a lot of nuance and a lot of kindness almost to some of these policies that have been so demonized by the press?
I got to give his comms team a high five. That was definitely a win for them. I went to school for public relations. I'm a publicist. And I got to give Hope Hicks, who is his strategic communications director, and she's only 25 or 26 too, for really softening him and not making him look like what the left wants us to have him be, this old white guy who just hates everybody, who's just this big racist, misogynist, and really broke it down to layman terms. If you are bringing an illegal immigrant into this country, you are taking jobs away from the American people. We are quick to help everybody else, but we don't help our own people first. And I think putting it like that was a complete win, because it's what conservatives have been saying for years.
Right.
But the one thing that our party and our movement has issues with is putting things that mean a lot to us into terms that everyday people can relate to and understand.
Absolutely. It's messaging. Yep.
Yep.
I'm
It's
sorry, go
something
ahead.
everybody can relate to. Perfect example, when I was 16, the day I turned 16, I went and started looking for a fast food job. I just wanted something to have a little bit of spending cash, and I couldn't find one. Why would they hire a 16-year-old American when they could hire a 40-year-old illegal and pay them half of what they would have to pay me?
Yeah, the messaging is all of it. You know, I've been very lucky to been able to do a number of speeches, probably a couple hundred around the country for Republican groups, Tea Party groups, but also on college campuses in front of some very, very left-wing, progressive, liberal audiences. And what I found was, I thought I would go into these events, and my goal was to give them at least a clear view of what conservative values are and see if I could win them over intellectually. But time and time and time again, Beth, what I found was that the main thing that I had done was I'd convinced them that as a conservative and as a Republican, I wasn't this monster. I wasn't some blood-sucking demon who just wanted people to die in a ditch so I could make an extra $5. The left uses this unearned moral superiority, this sense of we're better than you are, and you know, you're heartless and mean, and we're compassionate and caring. And Donald Trump comes in here and basically says, listen, I'm the one now who's catching the heat for this, but I'm the one who wants inner city black kids to get a real education. That's why we should have school choice.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, he's taken their sword away from them. He really has. What do you think about this? Did you notice all the references? The constant. I say probably the most recurring theme in the speech was jobs, 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 jobs. Bill Clinton famously in his 1992 election campaign had a big sign on the wall that says "It's the economy, stupid." Trump was talking about jobs all the time, and that's not just a good piece of politics to get a voting block. If you are going to present yourself as the champion of the little man, you now have essentially made the Democratic Party irrelevant. That's their entire identity, and he just took it away from them.
Yeah. You know, the left likes to play the moral card, the morality, welcome everybody. We like all colors and creeds, but we are essentially here for the poor man. And, you know, Donald Trump is saying, I want to represent the poor man, not just the black poor man or the Hispanic poor man, but I want to represent every poor man and woman in this country. And that's a message. Who can say that they don't want jobs? The
Right,
left wants
exactly.
jobs, the right wants jobs, and everybody in between wants jobs. It's a winning message.
Yeah, it certainly is. Absolutely is. We'll be back in a few minutes with Beth Baumann from BearingArms.com, and we'll be talking about some of the things that Donald Trump might be doing moving forward after this remarkable speech. So we'll cover all of that when we get back from the break. This is CN Live on NRA TV, and we'll be back in just a moment.